Yeah,
And we're rolling now.
It's very exciting.
Yeah, this is our first interview at the Maltese. And I'm stoked to have Mr. Doug Carrion with me right now, of Doug C and the Blacklisted.
Ciao.
For those of you who don't know, he's got a long history in...
Where is it?
There.
Is it a weird light?
He's got a long history.
What is it?
In music. It's like a...
Oh my, that's so wild.
From
It's like just stand like that. Do you want to move this thing?
Oh, no. I think this is cool.
That's kind of cool.
Other than that, light being gone now, I think that's perfect. So, Doug has had a long fucking musical history.
Right.
I just wanted to talk to him about...
How could I have a long...
How
could I have such a long career when I'm only 22? It's like amazing. No, I don't know.
How have you managed to persevere and stay in the music game and keep it fresh?
I love music. I love entertaining people. I have probably, I have the exact same passion as I did when I was 15. So, why it stays, I don't know. I couldn't tell you, but I do know that there's something about, I love entertaining people, and there's something about writing songs and singing songs and the process. And I still find it interesting and challenging and annoying, and it's like an evil twin that I can't get rid of, like a evil twin, and you try to outrun it, but it's part of what I do. It's who I am. It's like that's what I do.
Cool. You started out in punk rock bands when you were at the young age of 4.
Yeah, when I was at the age of 6 months old. Yep, it's true.
And transitioning now, your current project, Doug C and the Blacklisted, is more of a traditional country / bluegrass feel at times.
Right.
What was your major transition point out of the punk rock sounding stuff and into the country bluegrass?
Well, it's kind of an interesting run. The first thing is that I grew up in Hermosa Beach, and my stepdad played in bands down there, and so I was exposed to a lot of Buck Owens and Merle Haggard and through that channel, and it's the first one. It's kind of like, how did I get to the country thing? The other one is that when I grew up at the beach, there was still really good AM radio, and as corny as that sounds, but there really was AM radio, and what was interesting about the format was that they would play the top 10 of every genre. So you would hear what was going on in the country world just the same way you'd hear what was going on in R&B or what was going on in the rock world. And so even growing up in California, and there's another element, which is growing up at the beach, you're always there's always mariachi music and Tejano in the background. So that kind of groove has been embedded. It's in the blood of Californians. And so for me, since I grew up in Hermosa Beach, it probably would have been more likely that I would have gotten into jazz, because I grew up real close to where the Lighthouse was, and the Lighthouse is one of those whistle stops where Miles Davis played and everybody played.
Right.
But all my friends were doing drinking beers and skateboarding and stuff like that, and one of them had turned me on to a Black Flag tape. And so even though I was kind of moving in a direction of maybe I would have gone into the jazz world, I all of a sudden ricocheted into the punk world. Being in the punk world, I did that, had a lot of fun in it, but that wasn't the only thing that I listened to. It wasn't definitely not the only thing I listened to. In fact, there's a lot of I would do Dag Nasty tours, and I would have the sound people play Patsy Cline in between the bands, which is you think wow, that's so weird, but it's just something that I really kind of I really love American music and the idea of kind of pulling things back a little bit. Then we're talking about, for me, sorry, it's a long one. The idea of being able to play songs in a 3-chord structure I find very interesting too. And that's it. And I did the punk thing for a long time, went behind the scenes kind of doing studio stuff for a long time, and started really exploring. I'm kind of like maybe almost like 4 years deep in like Americana traditional roots music. But yeah, that's kind of the transition.
It's funny you mentioned skateboarding. The first time I had ever heard of your name actually was on, well, it's on my leg now for life.
There you go.
We get that on camera there.
There you go.
We've got Milo here. One of the Descendant songs of Doug's era was Doug Rides a Skateboard.
There you go. Which is again, it's funny because that's true. Song was written for Enjoy and ended up being like a B-side, but then I don't know how it made its way to the world. It was like
I had it on
like a weird bootleg thing, yeah.
And it was called the Enjoy Sessions.
Yeah.
And the tattoo I have on my leg was the cover art used for that album.
Right.
And it had Doug Rides a Skateboard. It had Green. It had a bunch of stuff that didn't make the album.
Right.
And then at the end of it, it had a live performance in San Diego as well.
Wow. Okay. That's cool.
It had Windy, which did make the album.
Right.
But as far as, like, I went back because I was like, oh, I've got the bootleg of that album. I went back and got the album later. I was like, whoa, there's a lot of shit off that bootleg that's not really on the album.
Yeah, no, what happened was that recording was actually done. That record was recorded twice. One time it was recorded, and then the band went out and toured, and then came back and recorded it again. So there was like 2 different. I guess you could say it was done twice, But that's like, Bill's funny, and I love those guys, and we still communicate. And in fact, I just got a text from Milo, and they were like in Germany or whatever. They're doing festivals over in Europe.
Everywhere. Dropping a brand new album for the first time in 12 fucking years.
They're huge, and they're phenomenal. Like, if you get the opportunity to see them, like, if you want to, I mean, they're phenomenal. And I've seen them, it's funny because, like, here's the Descendants story. Like, Descendants were like the punk band that was like the local band, okay? And so I would go to the shows when I was a young buck, and Bill and I had the same classes in high school, and so way later down the line, when he had left Black Flag and he was reigniting, he was going to reboot Descendants. He's like, dude, Tony bounced. Do you want to do it? And I was like, yeah, it sounds like fun. And that's kind of how it was. So for me, I got to see the Descendants play, Kabuki Girl and all these other songs way before I ever actually played them. And then I got to play them, a gazillion times, which is kind of cool, So being able to wear both hats, like as a fan and then as a band member.
And I think that's one of the things that's like almost a teenage dream, especially. I don't want to say punk rock is easy to play, but like any music, like if you really get into it, you play along with all your idols to their CDs or cassettes or records, and you're like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if I was playing this someday? It's like, well, I think you got to live that.
I mean, I think like Descendants, that's complicated. It's very, very complicated. In fact, I would say that you take Milo Goes to College. For anybody that wants to listen...
I took that for a long time.
Right. Milo Goes to College is a very, very great record, wonderful writing.
I wore that thing out twice.
But here's what's really wild. Think about the complexity of the drum parts that Bill was writing at that age. Like a young kid, and the parts were just ridiculous, and that's what's so wonderful about it, is that you see like a bunch of years later, new people getting into it, but that they can execute those songs better. You know what I mean? It's a trip, but that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, good for them.
Well, I think we're gonna wrap this up.
Cool.
I think we got
it.
Chatting a long time.
Sorry, I talked too much.
Anyway,
come out and see Doug C in the Blacklisted. I was here, but maybe I'll come back again. So maybe this is like one of those things, like a deja vu. This is like a deja vu.
We'll record right here next time.
You go. Whoa! That's like he's here, and then he's coming again. So they're gonna probably play this as like a pre-roll for some other show that we're gonna do. So come out to the show. I don't know when it is, but we'll be back.
Yeah, it'll be on a rig day.
Yeah, one of those.
The one that ends in Y.
I don't know.
That's what we were scheduled.
I just work here. I just work here. All right, bye guys. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. Have a great night.
All right.
Thanks to this guy for coming in.
Thank you,
Doug.
Thank you.
What a pleasure, man.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay.